Previously on the Game On podcast.
All right, on to my favourite game of your cricketing career, Bluey, and you obviously know which one that is.
I think we all know which one that is, mate.
So the Shield final here, and you think it was a game which fluctuated. Like those of us who followed Shield cricket knew, hey, this guy Gilchrist is pretty special, but geez, he did announce that in the Shield final, and then the game ebbed and flowed. We didn't bat quite as well. Out of the game. And probably, interestingly enough, the fielding by you and Buff really helped us. People forget that you got two vital run-outs. You ran Damien Martin out, I reckon, on memory.
Yep.
Got the first wicket of the game too, Bluey. And that just go through. And then you batting on the last day, and you were absolutely plumb LBW if we were playing 9 stumps. That was a shocking decision. Go through that, and you went for a drive as well, Bluey. Go through the whole game.
I was going to ask about that.
Go through it, mate.
Yeah, it was just an incredible game. I mean, when people look at the scoreboard and they see that, Gilly made those runs at a run a ball or whatever it was, they scored a huge total. But they also probably don't realise that it rained for a quite a long period of that innings. It was almost
drizzle, wasn't it?
I reckon, Malcolm, where it was just like a light drizzle, which wasn't enough for us to go off. But it was just ideal batting conditions where, the spin bowlers couldn't bowl, or if they did, it just, there was no purchase. They couldn't hold the ball properly. And same with the quicker bowlers. Like it just skidded on. There was no sight. It was absolutely perfect batting conditions. So we're on the wrong end of it there. But then from then on, we obviously just had to try and hang in there. And at one stage when I was batting with James Brayshaw in the second innings, we thought we could get the runs. And then he played a
terrible
shocking shot against Brad Hogg, and Dong one straight up in the air. And from then on, Jamie Siddons came out to bat, and he couldn't run or couldn't hardly move with his injury. I think it was a hip or a groin. So it was a matter of just trying to save the game. And then I remember I got out not long after the second new ball was taken, and I honestly thought that was it. I thought that was the game, and it was the only time I've ever cried when I came off the bat.
You weren't alone there, Bluey. Yeah,
I was in tears. Yeah, probably along with you, Malcolm. So I thought the game was gone, and then we were watching on for a while, just waiting for the last few wickets to fall. And then, as we know, Shane George and Peter McIntyre, who both are absolute rabbits with the bat, were able to hold on. But it was like literally excruciating to watch. Like every over felt like half an hour.
Sportscast SA presents Game On. Game On. South Australians' destination for everything sports. Local, national, and international sports. AFL football, soccer, basketball, golf, baseball, tennis, cricket, and any other sports played in this wide world. And we're going to have a blast doing it. So sit back, relax, and let's do this thing. Welcome to Game On.
Welcome to Game On. My name's Pete, and Malcolm again in the studio, and I had to play that because I know that's one of your most favourite moments. But just to relive it with Bluey was fantastic.
I actually realised then, just as you were playing it, Pete, that we've now had 4 out of the 12 of the Shield side. I reckon we might keep going on that.
Absolutely.
On that angle.
We'll,
there's a couple more we can get on.
I'll leave that in your capable hands and see if we can put the starting 11
I don't think we'll get it all of them.
No.
I can assure you a couple won't. We'll leave it at that. But no, I reckon we can get a couple more at least.
Mate, you're obviously at the game, and Bluey explaining right there at the end there that every ball felt like, or every over felt like half an hour. From your point of view, what did you feel?
Well, just say at that stage I was still working nursing at aged care, and I may have jogged to the doctor's on a warm day with a jumper on and walked in, and the doctor wrote a sick certificate for a week. So, yeah, I basically did miss a ball.
Yep.
First, when Gilchrist was going troppo, there was actually the temporary stand, which they had up for the because of the Rams and that back then.
Yep.
And let's just say the ball was flying over there. And then she sat with Chris McDermott for a while and Simon Goodwin. That was when Simon Goodwin was around the mark then as well, when he had footy and cricket. It was one or the other. Yep. So, yeah.
And a handy cricketer from all
he
accounts.
Was good. He was. I think he was unlucky with cricket. He wasn't quite tall enough with the where they looked, but he could bowl. Yep. Simon could seriously bowl. Yep. And nowadays he would have been demand with 2020 and all that side of things. He was a good all-rounder. Yep. So it certainly ebbed and flowed, and Bluey's decision on the last day. And we thought we were gone, and then the countdown each ball, the crowd flooding in, and I think they said they thought there was about 13,000 there at the end. So it was
truly a magical day. And
and a couple of big nights.
Absolutely. Yes. And let's just hope somewhere along the line that South Australia pull one out of the bag and you're off celebrating again for a week, mate. All right, mate, let's get into Around the Grounds.
Around the Grounds.
All right, and as per usual, the SANFL W, the finals are upon us. The cricketing finals as well, and our special guest today, Sir Anthony Harvey, as you so succinctly put it as well. Yep. But, mate, I'm going to defer to you here. I'm going to flip the coin. You tell me where you want to start today. You got the new ball. Adelaide or Port Adelaide?
Well, with Adelaide, for me, on Saturday, I'll be honest, I ran Adelaide Uni Footy Club's past players and Premiership Reunion Day. Been up since 5 a.m, picked people up from the airport and done a lot of running around. It was a big day. And I watched the game to quarter time. I left Uni Oval, which was still absolutely pumping. It had been a huge day. It was about 700, we thought, between 700 and 1,000 at Uni Oval on Saturday. Uni had beaten Goodwood. The 99 guys were still on fire after the game. I think the guy was running the bar was ready for a coronary at that stage. And it was big. So I watched to quarter time and then I left, and I only had a glimpse when I got home. So I didn't see where the Amati party went berserk and Keane, where they were saying where he was standing him. So there was a few bewildering things there, which I've watched the highlights since, but not overly amount. Look, one thing I can't work out with Adelaide is Dowling is a midfielder. That's where he got drafted from. He's played very well in the SANFL in the midfield, yet he's getting no time in the midfield at centre bounces at all. And Adelaide are terrible in there. Laird's really struggling.
Yes.
With a father, and I just can't work out why he hasn't gone back to half-back or back pocket. There's just been some things where you just keep shaking your head. What in the hell are they doing? Now, I'm actually fully in thing. I'm glad that they're finally giving Strawn a chance, whether he's good enough or not.
No.
I don't think it's the point. The fact is their incumbent hasn't been for a long, long time. And as I've gone on for years, ruck's Adelaide's biggest weakness. And I think it's been shown now.
I'm going to play some audio from Matty Nix, and let's see how we go from there.
So what are you learning about yourself at the moment? Because you talk about pressure of coaching and you can be pretty isolated in a losing streak. But what are you learning about yourself just right now?
Well, that's a good question. I've learned that I've got a pretty good footy club looking after me at the moment. That's one of the most positive things to come out of this. It's challenging, but I've got full backing of this footy club. I mentioned it during the week. John and Tim have been amazing for me. Our playing group have been incredible through this tough time. Like, we're sticking tight. So I hope that's a sign of the sort of human I am, that we're not going to give up. We're going to keep pushing through, and we actually feel like we are making progress this year. And it's dangerous to say that because our results don't show that, and we understand. And we understand the frustration. We have the same frustration, but we do know that we're heading in the right direction.
A
finals off the cards for you guys now?
There's still a long way to go in the season.
Just on Maxi, is that a move that we might see more of going into the back half of the season, playing a little bit more midfield? I know obviously spent a bit of time there against Hawthorn as well.
Yeah, we really like the way Max plays his footy. He's a competitor. He's shown that behind the ball, that he's played on some of the best players in the game, as a defender. He continues to grow and add to his game, and so he has the ability to win one-on-one footballs, and we felt like, there was an important part to today that, Chad Warner's a very, very good footballer, and we felt like a little bit of attention there would help us. And as I said before, I thought it looked really strong for us for 2.5 quarters. We'll continue to look at Maxi in different roles for the team.
All right, let's unpack that. Firstly, Matty Nix with the support. What are your thoughts on that? Strong footy clubs obviously stand behind the people they think that are going to be there long term. I mean, Geelong did it with Thompson. Yep. Obviously, Richmond did it with Hardwick. So there has been a pattern of this in the past.
Yes, but there's also, how many times have we heard the full support of the board and 2 days later the person's got the bullet as well? Yeah, my bit there was my first thought, because I'll be honest, I hadn't heard that. Mm-hmm. My first thought was delusional. That was my first immediate thought. Not so much the support. That's a bit of wah-wah.
So now we're moving on to when he's saying we think we've improved. Yeah. Now, this was going to be my big question for you, was where have Adelaide improved and who has improved? Now, Max is obviously having to, you'd want about 3 of him at the moment on the basis that he's vital down back, but they are trying him in the midfield. He's probably one of the only shining lights.
And Soligo.
Soligo, yep.
And that's really just about it. How many other players have plateaued? And that's my big beef. Like, you can sit and say their recruiting's been terrible, but what about the development? Mm-hmm. Jones and McHenry really don't look much different from the day they've been drafted. Jones a little bit, but McHenry still makes the same errors. That's just using those two.
Yep.
And I just don't think there's Lockie Murphy.
Well, how he's getting
I respect him as a person, but he's not an AFL footballer.
But how he's getting a game ahead of Pedler when you are talking about
a rebuild,
your future.
Yeah, bizarre.
You've got to go, you know what? Pull the trigger and play your youth now.
They're rating his so-called pressure and all that way higher than I ever have. And I'll be honest, I've never have rated it.
Mm-hmm.
I made that point to Scotty Burns one day, and we had more than a interesting discussion on that side of it.
Yep.
But he's not an 8-tackle, 10-tackle like Rioli was.
Yes.
You think Cyril Rioli...
Eddie Betts.
But Cyril Rioli won games with his tackling and pressure and just chase and harass.
Mm-hmm.
Murphy doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't see what they see in him.
Yep.
It's just got me... I'm still shaking my head. And he's played over 100 games. And I just shake my head. And for mine...
And that's probably kept the development of some players out and then become disillusioned playing SANFL too much on the basis that...
As I said, you recruit Dowling as a midfielder and he's hardly had any midfield time. For goodness sake, you're struggling. Let's plan for the future and play him on ball.
So for the last couple of weeks, all right, I probably was a bit premature in asking for it, but realistically, finals, and this goes down to what we heard there. Yeah, there's a long way to go in the season. I know you're trying to sell a little bit of hope. I get that. Yeah. Spoke about it last week. But now is the time where you've gone, all right, we're playing Strawn. We want to have a look at him, see where he's at. We're playing Dowling. Seems to be at the level, but not quite in the right position at the moment. And I know you can't just chuck him from the SNFL into the midfield, but give him midfield minutes.
Oh, definitely. And for mine, as soon as they lost against Collingwood, that was it. They weren't going to play finals. That was the end of it. So let's plan for the future. And I'm just, at the moment, I can't work out what direction Adelaide Football Club are attempting to go in, and that's the big thing.
So who's to come in and who's to go out, do you think, for the future? I think Pedler's got to come in.
Yes. I'd play Pedler. I'd play Dowling on ball.
Yep.
With Soligo.
Yep. Rankin and
I would try the young Murray who they picked up, Toby Murray in the mid-season draft.
Yep.
Have a look at him. At least I would even use Cook with spurts on ball.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just try some things for the future.
So now is the time that you want to be going through the list.
Yep.
It looks like they sort of tried it a little bit, but now is the time where you got to go, you know what? Some of these older guys, Smith as an example, looks like the game passed him very, very quickly, like we've seen time and time and time again with a lot of players. Now's the time to have a look at that future.
I've gone on about it for ages. Ruck's been our biggest weakness for 7 years, and they've really done little about it. And Taylor Goad should have been way higher on the list of priorities for the future for mine.
Question without notice, Tim English is obviously coming up for a potential. Do Adelaide go for an experienced ruckman?
Well, because
they don't grow on trees.
The complete and utter irony of that, and let's come back there, where the recruiting staff are clapping the absolute heat. If they'd got their way, Tim English was a Crow instead of Jordan Gallucci, where Don Pike overruled.
Yep. Ruckman don't grow on trees, so a bit of a hard one.
Yep.
Adelaide, the game against Sydney, a major response which was needed. I think it was quite impressive, actually, for a good couple of quarters there, but a 12-minute blitz from Sydney absolutely blew the game away, and it's class.
Yeah, and let's be fair, they've done that several times this year. They did it against Carlton. They've done it against Geelong. Adelaide, there's 3 off the top of my head. I think there was another one. So, yeah, it's just those on-ballers with elite disposal that they can cut teams up quickly, and they did it again.
Mate, just going back over our episode last week, you tipped 42 points, I tipped 56. Well, you were close to the pin for the actual result, and I was actually close to the pin for the turnaround. So we weren't too far away in the end. What did you think of Hinge's hit? Because
dumb.
Was it?
Dumb.
Yes, it was dumb for the time of the game.
Yeah.
But do you like that there was a little bit of intent that, hey, I'm not going to stand for this BS that's on the field?
Funny.
And they got sucked in.
A coach I respect highly did make that point yesterday that he liked it because of that, of where Adelaide are at, which I thought was interesting from someone who's pretty well regarded in.
Yep. I'm not saying you've got to go out there and belt people.
No, but at least they flew the flag a bit, whether it was smart, whether it was dumb, whether the game was already over. Yeah, you can argue there. You just got to be a little bit smarter about it, but especially nowadays, because anything gets pinged. And, we'll have a look. We're going on to the Port Adelaide game now.
Yep.
Now, if I was Michael Christian at the moment, I'd tell the AFL where to shove it. We're recording tonight on the Tuesday night where Zach Butters has just got off.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, was it intentional? Yes.
Yep.
You can't debate that.
Yep.
Because it wasn't even in play.
Yes.
Was it high? Yes.
Yep. Was it
low impact?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
That's one game.
Yep.
So, because it wasn't in play. So, therefore, how in the hell can you you're saying, it wasn't hard enough? Well, assault's assault.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we can sit here and
say...
But
it's behind the play, though, and this is what they're trying to stamp out.
So, for mine, he goes for a game in terms of... Orangey gets a game for being bloody stupid.
Yep.
Change the gradings. If you're going to throw that out at the tribunal... Mm-hmm. And they cooked their goose when they let Hogan off earlier in the year when they shouldn't have.
Yep.
So Port just played that as the defence and just followed. I followed the transcript tonight, and he was going to get off. It was terrible by the AFL. But if I was Michael Christian, I'd go in tomorrow and say, right, change the gradings.
Yep.
Stop making me look like an idiot, because under that, he ticked every box. That is a game.
Yep.
So change the gradings.
Is it a case of a bit of a well-known player, potential?
Well, I think he's got off twice this year when he shouldn't have.
Well, I know he's not Brownlow favourite.
Yeah, but he's around the mark.
But he is around the mark. Is it a case of being a name player? And
it certainly helps. Let's be honest.
Wow. All right, I'm going to play a bit of audio now from Kenny's press conference, and let's have a little bit of a.
I did see that whole game.
Let's have a bit of a talk about that.
The future for Mitch is looking bright, but we need the future for the collective to look bright, not just for Mitch.
Obviously, like you said, Ollie had a tough return, I guess, after a long stint out. Is that something you're going to persist with, that sort of new look, younger forward group?
Well, we need to look at the team that's capable of kicking the score that we need to kick. And I think, tonight, clearly we didn't have that exactly the way we want it. We've got a couple of pieces out of there that we know are far more damaging when they're in good form, but we haven't got good form from some of them, and we've got injury unavailable from others. So that's just the challenge of an AFL season. It's got a long season to go still, and, we're in that back of teams who are not quite playing at their absolute best right now. So we got to keep in search of what our absolute best is and what it looks like. And tonight, coming off a bye, it looked like a bit of a lethargic team tonight. We didn't look as sharp as we needed to look, and I think we need to own that ourselves and get back to being prepared to run and take the game on a little bit more.
And I guess you just alluded to Charlie Dixon there. Any concerns with the incident that happened?
No, I've been in Sydney. I haven't seen yesterday's game. We travelled, so Charlie, that'll take care of itself. If there's an incident, they'll look at that. They'll give us the information, and we'll make some challenges from there. But we're not going to just get out of jail with one or two pieces. We've got to get the collective in good form, and we haven't had them in really good form for a little period of time. But I don't think that's a surprise of what we're seeing in the competition. I think there's teams who are a little too up and down, and there's one team who are clearly up all the time.
Obviously, Kenny talking then about Sydney, but I was speaking with a passionate Port Adelaide Power supporter actually a couple of days ago, or Monday actually, Phil, who filled in for you actually for a couple of games, just touch base with him on what he was thinking about Port Adelaide, and he'd sort of been backing Kenny a little bit for a little while, but he's lost faith now, and hearing that the playing group's a bit devoid of confidence, and he almost looks like he's out of options.
It was interesting where a Port guy's opinion to me, who's seen Ollie Lord playing at SANFL, that he was adamant that he wasn't ready, and that his form at SANFL level hadn't been enough to pick him. He was still very much on play Finlayson, not so much Dixon. But yeah, Lord looked underdone.
Yep.
And he struggled. And that's where they did struggle up forward. And I thought the scoreline flattered them really, that GWS were 15 points down at quarter time, yet it had plenty of the play and it missed some sitters.
Yep.
They did look a better side than Port from the majority. And there's no doubt whatsoever that Butters is going to continue to get heavily tagged. Now, he's going to have to learn there. It was a brain fade. He's very lucky to be playing this week. But he'll get Jared Berry this week, who will be really red hot on him again. He's going to have to work harder and learn. There's a fair bit of learning to beat a tag there. And I'm sure he'll be talking to people this week.
Well, the trend in games is now back to the tagger. And it's something that some of these young, good players haven't had to experience previously.
And Bedford was a surprise because he'd been doing the job as it's the smallish forward. So he hadn't tagged, and then he did a good job.
There was another part of that interview that Kenny had no idea that what he could do to Butters, as far as an unknown coming to tag him. Again, big tick to the coaching staff of GWS for doing their research. Really,
no doubt about that.
I mean, they know their players better than the opposition will, but surely you've got a plan for every potential. I know that if something comes out of left field, you've got to react. But they didn't react.
No, they seem a bit lost on Butters. If Butters isn't dominating, they seem not sure what to do. And you would have thought by now, because he's been tagged a few weeks now, there would have been the play right till we put him forward, one out. We're struggling full forward anyway. Let's clear the 50. Try some things there. Admittedly, it's not as easy to clear the 50 as it used to be.
But Hall Francis is in the same boat too.
But he does go forward and looks dangerous at forward. He missed a couple of goals on Sunday, which is unusual for him. They do look like they rely on that. Those three, we talk about all the time to dominate. And if they're not dominating, it's like Houston, in a game where they really never looked like they were going to win from halfway through the second quarter, I think he gained 850 metres. Houston dominated, yet they didn't really have much else.
Yeah. Is it a case of the Power again once being challenged and once again falling apart?
We've also it's interesting, the missing pieces of the jigsaw in terms of Radigalia, the Thatcher, both only fringe, especially Radigalia, only fringe player at their other club, and they're both sort of bit iffy. You can see there, well, hang on. You just wonder there now whether Port...
Overinvested?
Yeah, that's probably the correct description. So we're just going to have to wait and see, but there's big question mark. Big game for them this week against Brisbane.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about that one in a minute. Could this be the most costly loss of the season for Port Adelaide?
Well, it could in the end, especially if they lose this week. Then they've got St Kilda in Melbourne next week, which is a 50-50 game.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they've got... We'll worry about that game later. But, so it's certainly a question mark. It's a huge game this week.
Absolutely.
Massive game because it's probably Brisbane season on the line as well.
Yeah, but I trust Brisbane probably a little more at home than I do away.
Yes.
But they got the job done, and that leads us into the results from last weekend. The Lions obviously getting up over St Kilda by 20 points. They seem to be in control, but then at quarter time...
They made some horrendous errors to keep St Kilda in the game.
Yeah.
And then Windhager, again, my bugbear of a player not knowing the laws of the game, because where he came to stand the mark, you can't be over the mark. It's not a comeback from there to get the 50 and all that. So, and St Kilda at the start of the game gave away a free kick on the 6-6-6 rule when people are going, oh, well, no, that's wrong. They're meant to get a warning. No, there's a second part of the 6-6-6 rule.
Yes.
So after the reset, the St Kilda player then walked out of the goal square, so that is a free kick.
Yep.
So again, just I hate players not knowing the rules. It really shits me.
Mm-hmm. Well, some umpires that don't know the rules either, but we can
the
talk
umpires
about
the rules,
the interpretations,
and the instructions to them. Like I'm still going on and Barmy actually spoke about it yesterday.
Yep.
The decision against Yo from West Coast.
Yes.
About how it was such an atrocious decision for the good of the game and the lack of knowledge of the game, the AFL ticking that off, how it's all wrong.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hold your fire on that one because I've got. Well, I want to talk about that in our hot topics, but we'll move on. The Bulldogs getting up by 67 points over the Dockers. The Dockers look at sea.
Yeah, disappointing that they're not even competitive in away. They are boiled chocolates. Yeah, they did well in Darwin.
And they got Melbourne at probably the right time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
the interesting one for the weekend was the Dusty 300th, but you were right. You called it. The Hawks did spoil the party in the end, but what a way to start that game with Dusty kicking the first. It just set the scene, didn't it?
Well, it's a comment yesterday we were talking about it, where realistically, Martin's dragged 45 to 50,000 people, which is incredible. If that hadn't been his 300th, Richmond have won 2 games, struggling. That's probably a crowd of 45,000 on the Saturday afternoon.
Yep.
92,000. So
and there was about 80 that got the Dusty haircut.
Yeah.
I'm in no danger of getting the Dusty haircut, but there's 80 people that did that. That's the drawing power of such a player like that.
Remarkable.
Now, I did have this set down for some of my hot topics as far as what do we think Dusty's going to do. I'm going to pull it out now, mate. What do you think he's going to do? Will he retire, as in pretty much all now after he's played his 300? Will he go on to the end of the season?
At the minimum.
And will he stay at Richmond?
I think it's up in the air whether he'll play next year. I believe he'll either play for Richmond or not at all.
Right. Very cool. Anyway, that's what I think's going to happen as well. So it sounds like we're on the same page there. And then to finish off the round, obviously we've talked the Port Adelaide and Adelaide games, but the finishing off of the round was North Melbourne v Collingwood. I don't know if you caught any of this game.
Yeah, I did. I saw nearly the whole game.
I watched after quarter time.
Yeah, I saw from late in the first quarter. Incredible game of footy.
North Melbourne were up and about, and I looked at the score and went, surely that's a typo.
Yeah, but it was so quick. Yep. The old bit where it's said that the game at Marvel where the ball carries that bit further and quicker, well, I'll tell you what it was on Sunday. And then, look, it's actually ironic. While it is an umpiring error at the end, I actually thought that was the common – it's an umpiring error.
Yep.
Because we don't umpire with common sense. I actually thought that was a common sense.
You're talking about the 50 metre right at the end of the game. Yep.
So it should have been a 50 on the laws of the game. But I actually think it was a common sense way because he did play on as well. It was doubtful. Was it 15
and
from the
umpire,
soccer? So I actually thought it was a good call.
And I thought the umpire might have been just obstructed. If you look back at the vision, there's a couple of players that
in front.
But we don't know the angles. But it may have been a case that he didn't quite see it where it came out and so on. But
according to the laws of the game, because he didn't call play on when the ball soccered, they did move forward. He blew his whistle, so it's 50 according to the...
But didn't call stand. But anyway.
So out of that, but I actually thought it was well umpired, which it shits me as an umpire. That's what should happen. It was common sense. Unfortunately, not like the one I'm going on about, the West Coast decision.
All right, mate, we're going to take a very, very quick break. When we come back, our tips and then some AFL hot topics.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
Are dents and scratches putting a dent in your day? Introducing Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide, your trusted solution for automotive woes. With over 2 decades of expertise, Roger Steen Crash Repairs guarantees top-notch service, restoring your vehicle to its former glory in no time. From minor dings to major collisions, our skilled technicians handle it all with precision and care, using state-of-the-art equipment and techniques.
Roger Steen Crash Repairs saved my car. It looks brand new.
Fast, friendly and reliable. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my vehicle. Don't let accidents slow you down. Visit Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide at 14 Penner Avenue, Glynde for quality service you can count on. And here's a special offer just for our listeners. Mention this podcast and receive a $100 discount on your repair. Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide. Excellence in every repair.
Right, and once again, thanking our sponsors there. But this week, there's some interesting games to kick us off. Carlton v Geelong. What are your thoughts, mate?
I'm going to go for Carlton. I've got a bit more confidence in Carlton at the moment. Dangerfield will be back, which helps Geelong dramatically, but there's a few, Stewart seems to have been found out a little bit with being more closely attended to.
Yep.
That's lost a lot of the Geelong drive out of the back line. That they fell away. Okay, Sydney did the burst, pretty similar to this week.
Yep.
Out of that, but no, at the moment I'm Carlton. I'll go for Carlton.
I'm going to go for Carlton as well. Again, probably trust obviously the Blues a little bit more than the Cats, but certainly a mouth-watering clash. And obviously, half the competition had buys last week. The other half have basically got it this week.
Yeah.
So it's going to make it very, very interesting to see how that one plays out. But I'm probably on the Carlton bandwagon. The one we did talk about briefly before was Port Adelaide and the Lions.
Yeah, I'm going to go for Port to rebound with Butters getting off tonight. I think that's crucial. I probably don't trust Brisbane and travelling as much. Although ironically, they've probably got a better record here against Port than they do against Adelaide, which is surprising.
Interesting. Yeah.
But toss of the coin. I'll go for the home side.
Saturday afternoon at 1:15. It looks like we've got a little bit of wet weather coming our way, potentially for the weekend. Does that change things up a little bit?
Possibly. I thought Saturday wasn't too bad at this stage,
Look, the weather changes on a dime at the moment. The clash of the bridge or the battle for the bridge there between the Giants and Sydney. This one's...
At this stage, you have to go for Sydney.
Yeah.
You can't not tip Sydney at the moment.
But is it a case of we've seen it with Port Adelaide and Adelaide, no matter where they are on the ladder, it always provides an interesting clash.
It should be a good game.
Yep. Melbourne v North. This has got all sorts of ramifications right now, hasn't it? Because we've seen North at their best, and I know that's unrealistic to bottle and bring out each week, but we have seen North Melbourne go to another level.
If North play remotely anywhere near as well as they did against Collingwood, they'll win, but you just can't go for... I'll go for Melbourne because I think it's Melbourne's almost last chance saloon. Mm-hmm. Admittedly, without Petrarca and Oliver's not fit enough, that's been shown.
Yep.
So big question marks there. Look, you've certainly got a case for either. I'll go Melbourne, but with no confidence whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm flipping the coin. I'm getting the coin out and flipping it.
Yep.
Very interesting to see who comes into that Melbourne lineup because, if North stay with pretty much all what they've got, and they almost prophesised what they were going to do last weekend, saying Collingwood were gettable, Collingwood were gettable. Now, if they go in with the same mindset this week and say Melbourne are gettable and play like they did, they'll absolutely smash Melbourne.
All I'd say with Melbourne is I would love Will Verrill to debut, and if that happened, I was with Stewie.
Mm-hmm.
Stewie's got MMD.
Yep.
I was with him Saturday afternoon. It was great that we had 7 members of our 1986 premiership side together, so we took a photo with Stewie, which was pretty special.
Absolutely.
So wish Stewie all the best. He does listen to our podcast, and look, I just would love Will to debut, and all of a sudden I will be a full-blooded demon for the day.
And Melbourne have got the opportunity to do that right now. So it's all in Simon Goodwin's hands. All right, on Sunday we've got Essendon v the Eagles. Is that Marvel?
Yeah, I'll go Essendon.
I'll go Essendon there as well. And the
Harley Reid back, I reckon, so that does make them a bit better.
Yeah, but away though. If it was at Optus, I'd
50-50.
Yeah,
yep, I agree.
And the Dockers v the Suns at Optus.
Well, you've got to go Dockers.
I backed them to bounce back and at home.
At home.
And
you can't trust Gold Coast away. Yeah.
Travelling away as well. Yep. Bias to Adelaide, Collingwood, the Bulldogs, Hawthorn, St Kilda and Richmond. So
Adelaide might lose an internal trial.
Finally, everybody's at least got one of their buys, if not 2 of them. So
it's been a bit of chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into some hot topics, mate. Quick handballs, here we go. Why are the AFL coming out weekly to justify umpiring decisions?
I almost think they have to. I actually like that, but I want honesty, not the bullshit of defending the AO decision. That I'm still irate on that. I've got nothing against. Yeah, we made a mistake.
Mm-hmm. But weekly though, because
unfortunately,
I think it puts the umpires under more pressure. I mean,
yeah, but they're going to get
what
hammered
happens
with
on Saturday happens on Saturday. It doesn't need to be re-dragged through the mud on Monday and Tuesday. More than what it already is on Talkback Radio.
But I think it gets hammered anyway. If you say no comment, well then, the AFL have effectively admitted they got it wrong. I don't think you can win either way.
But we never used to have this though. There's some howlers in the past, but why do we see a need?
Because the game is so much now. You've got to remember it's 24/7. You've got SEN. You've got so much coverage now. Mm-hmm. You know, with podcasts such as our, etc. There's so much out there that
everybody's
saturation. Yeah.
All right, let's move on quickly. Challenges to the draft point system seem sooner rather than later. This took a lot of people by surprise, even though apparently clubs have been put on notice.
But then clubs have come out and said no, that's garbage, and pretty angry about it. So, look, yet again, for mine.
But why would you come out and say that? If it's a discussion, and I suppose this is where it gets down to.
It's a bit bizarre.
If it's a discussion, understandable. But it sounds like they're advanced, and this was going to sounded like it was going to happen for this year. But clubs are going, hang on, we've discussed it, we sort of know about it. But
clubs are saying that no, that there's some of it that no way in the world. Now, I don't think you can change it this late. Now, you don't just plan for this now. Carlton have been planning for the Camporelli twins for 3 to 4 years.
Yep.
So, you do that, so you back. They've made decisions last year in preparation for this year, where they made trades last year, where if this was in, they wouldn't have.
That's right.
So it's got ramifications. I don't believe it can happen this late.
Should it be a case of this happens when Tasmania enters the competition?
I think you can almost. I think if you're going to do it, you've got to do it virtually straight after the one. So clubs there.
Well, I'm only saying that when Tasmania enter, on the basis that a lot of clubs are thinking that far ahead in going, well, we need to bank a few points. We've got a couple of good kids.
Well, they are, but at least, they've certainly done all their planning for this year.
Yep.
Well, there's been some planning, yes, for next year, not to that extent. So I just think if you're going to make changes, it's got to be announced very soon after whatever year you're going to do it.
Well, the reason I ask when Tasmania comes in is on the basis that it's going to be compromised with new team coming in. So why not just reset it right there, right then, going, all right, Tasmania are in, the new draft point systems are in place, and then everybody's somewhat on a level playing field?
I think because Gold Coast this year, and people are carrying on, Gold Coast haven't played a final yet, and we're worried yet what Gold Coast are getting unfair advantages compared to what Collingwood and Richmond never travel, etc. Some of the carry-on there has been quite ridiculous.
Yep.
And let's be honest, they removed the living allowance in Sydney, despite the fact that it is more expensive to live in Sydney and that.
Well, according to some, it's more expensive to live in Adelaide, but that's another ballgame.
So you remove that. I think they've still got to have something in the rugby states to try and get more things, so we've got some locals playing, try and build support from there, all that side of things.
So you're saying take the long-term strategy for the better of the game rather than thinking about the short-term strategy where, like every other team that has been successful, they don't stay there forever.
People have got the shits with Gold Coast having the so-called advantage, Sydney getting Heaney out of it, Mills. Well,
yeah, but that helps sell stadiums out and brings more revenue to the game.
Yeah, and I think you've got to have some support in the rugby states. So, I think it's a bit short-sighted and panic at the moment, but isn't that the AFL in general? Like, think of some of the things they've done. The sliding rule, brought in because of one injury to Gary Rowan, and it is the most ridiculous. It's a horrendous rule to try and umpire. It is shocking. There was one played on the weekend. The umpire just stuffed it up completely with no understanding of it. You've got the panic last year with the Maynard, where it was a footy collision, so we changed the rules on that, despite the fact it hadn't happened before, but we'll panic straight away.
Yep.
And that's what it seems to be, a reaction, and not for the overall good of the game. Hey, how about admit the 4-umpire system hasn't worked? Actually show some character and go, right, that hasn't worked, we're going back to 3.
Would you like to see 3 umpires on the ground but 1 off the ground and they rotate around each quarter? Because I think the idea behind having the 4 umpires was, 1, to keep up with the speed of the game a little bit, but also, to find some of the frees that are not being paid.
No, I just think go to 3. I'm a 3. I'm a 3.
Well, that leads me into my point, and you've done it beautifully here, is that the AFL, are they truly comfortable with the state of football at the moment? Because it seems like they're asleep at the wheel.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And there's just hit and miss decisions being made, and I just think a lack of planning, the lack of support for the state leagues. In terms of SANFL seems to be getting smaller and waffle and that. Well, if you have nothing underneath, what's going to happen to the top level eventually? And okay, even just on the individual side of it, that you lose the Nick Digan, Paul Piopolo, Lee Spurs, Michael Barlow, Wilkie at St Kilda. You lose all that sort of thing. And not every kid at 18 is ready to play. So I just think there's some horrendous decisions being made at the moment with a lack of nous and a lack of knowledge and a lack...
Is it a case they're looking at the bottom line a little bit too much rather than the overall picture, the base of the pyramid?
All I will say is I would love Neil Baum to be involved more.
I'll leave that one in your capable hands, mate.
No, it was more a few comments from Barmy yesterday. And
he does make sense. He does make sense.
He nailed it yesterday.
Yep. All right, let's move on. Angus Brayshaw, the decision has been made. I think it's a fair one considering the situation. Melbourne has been afforded salary cap relief for the next 3 years to pay out Angus Brayshaw's contract under the new guidelines established by the AFL. 90% in 2025, 75% outside, obviously, the cap in 26 and 27 at 50%, and then nothing by 2028.
Yeah.
Is that a fair...
It's reasonable. I still think it's probably not too enough at the end, but they're virtually saying, well, right, don't take the risk of signing people up to 7-8 year deals. So I think that's equivalent. The AFL are going, right, you want to do that, you're playing with your own risk. Like Sam Taylor got seriously concussed a few weeks ago and he signed a 7-year deal since. And I think the AFL have gone, well, hang on, no there, that's too much for us. So for one, I actually think, considering the topic we're on and we're saying the AFL aren't thinking, in that one I actually think they have a little bit more.
but they've had to because it's becoming litigious.
Yes,
that's the problem.
correct.
We did talk a couple of weeks ago about that very point in will the AFL come in and actually look to reduce the number of year of contracts. Is this a catalyst for that?
I don't think they're going to have the legal thing to do that, but if you make that ruling, hey, we're not going to cover you, maybe not on that one.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you're right. Players sign for 7, 8, 10, 11 years. Something goes wrong. It leaves everybody in a very vulnerable state, doesn't it?
Well, and you do wonder there that have they thought of Taylor in that instance going, well, geez, he was out cold for 5 minutes on the ground. It was a pretty bad concussion.
Yep.
And yet 7 years, so yeah.
Now, I know it's not on concussion. Question without notice. The Petrarca, obviously, injury. We've found out a little bit more since. He almost sounded hesitant about returning to the field in the fact that, well, I don't know if I'm going to get hit there again or what's going to happen.
You actually had Collingwood guys on the ground worried, saying, hang on, we don't want you out. I'm really nervous you being out here. Now, that doesn't happen.
Yes.
You know, that's
in a
really
outside
the
sport.
combative scare out of that at AFL level. And I'm sorry, no. Nick Swingler as Sturt's head trainer, I think is very highly respected.
Yep.
He's been very critical of Melbourne. And, I just think overall, not on.
We'll get back to the actual footy here. Carlton are making a big statement at the moment, but are they a genuine contender?
I think they are, but purely because if you have a game where they get enough ball and Curnow and Mackay have a day out, then they could beat anyone. I think the big thing
Cripps and Walsh in the middle as well,
and Wiedering down back. So they've got a thing there, and De Koning improving. De Koning, Eston probably not, but he looks like he can then go forward as well. Mm-hmm. So I think they are a chance.
Okay. Fair call. I did ask last week whether we trusted Port Adelaide or Essendon more. I'm going to add 2 more names or 2 more clubs to that. Hawthorn or Fremantle?
Hawthorn at the moment.
Definitely trust Hawthorn a little more at the moment. Is that simply because of the systems that
maybe? And
to their
credit, where they blew the game against Port Adelaide, Port didn't win. Hawthorn managed to grab defeat from the jaws of victory. And then they just should have tried to score in that last quarter and stuffed it up. So, but at the moment, they've been very good ever since. So, I think Hawthorn are a chance, which is quite incredible.
I agree.
In terms of chance to make the 8.
Mate, we'll talk snakes and ladders here. Port Adelaide were the big losing to GWS were the big sort of losers, going from 3rd or 4th down to 7th, and then Collingwood moving from 6th to 3rd. It's a tight middle pack, isn't it, now, that any little slip up and you could be outside the 8 very, very quickly.
And okay, Collingwood have had some luck. We can't say that. Like at the end, that last kick, it's missed by a bee stick.
Yep.
So that is luck.
Yep.
But where they are, there's still to not throw away the towel when they were 9 goals down and how severely undermanned they are. You just got to keep really respecting Collingwood, because Collingwood have got a horrendous injury list, but they keep at it.
Mate, I think the word you said there was took the words out of my mouth, respect, and I never thought I'd be saying that about Collingwood as a bit of a joke. Of course.
We had to laugh at the end with the Port GWS and the signs they hold up. 3 minutes ago, Port held up a car. We said, what, was that time to steal a car at Port Adelaide? Was it? Off you come, pinch a car. They do some bizarre signs.
Jump in the car and we're not going to be playing anymore.
Burnouts and whatever.
It's just amazing that Collingwood and Brisbane to a certain degree. A couple of weeks ago we were talking about grand finalists not making finals, and all of a sudden Collingwood have gone bang, bang, bang and
they're
are sitting 3rd. And Brisbane with their home run coming up puts them back in the conversation. But obviously this week becomes very, very vital.
Yep.
Rising Star nomination for round 14, Harvey Thomas. Looks like a 12-year-old, but he plays a bloody important role for GWS, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's been pretty reasonable for GWS so far. Reasonably consistent since he's come in. So, well done to young Harvey there.
All right, let's take a very, very quick break. We're going to scoot through the SANFL, the SANFL W and the cricket.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.
All right, mate, we kick on with the SANFL. A bit of a split round, obviously, with the SANFL, like the AFL, but Central District's getting the job done over the Panthers.
Yeah, it's too good. Just a bit too much depth. South struggling.
Absolutely. Port Adelaide getting their first win of the season against West Adelaide.
It's a costly loss for West to be that outside chance to make the 5, and they blew it. So, yeah.
And then the curtain raiser to the Crows game was Woodville West Torrens v Adelaide, and from all accounts, Redden got the chocolates over Riley O'Brien.
Yeah, it's apparently like O'Brien got a bit of the ball around the ground, but yeah, speaking to a few people, and even yesterday, they said Redden beat him in ruck. So
that's a concern that you've got a part-time ruckman against.
Redden's a very good player. Don't get me wrong.
No, but he's a part-time player, really, when you think about it. And came out of retirement.
Yep.
Look, the ladder's getting a little bit crowded at the top. Woodville West Torrens sitting on top. Glenelg surprisingly sitting second. And I do say surprisingly because it just feels like sometimes they haven't quite been there, but they've got the job done. Yeah. Central's obviously the surprise packet. We did sort of flag right early in the season.
Harry Grant back changes them dramatically.
Yep. Norwood and then Sturt, obviously, with everybody having a few buys. That'll sort itself out over the next couple of weeks. This week's games, mate. Norwood v Port Adelaide, as you would say, at the home of football.
Yeah, I'll go for Norwood. We should win.
I believe.
Very disappointed if we don't.
Absolutely. Are you up on the scoreboard?
Yes.
Make sure if you're walking past, say hello, and I'm sure you've got a book or two to sell along the way.
I'm sure that they'll be there.
Absolutely. Sturt v North Adelaide.
Yeah, only on Sunday as well. I'll go for Sturt.
I'll go for Sturt as well. And the Tigers, West Adelaide v the Tigers, Glenelg.
Yeah, I'll go for Westies. Although Glenelg, Westies have done okay in competing, but you've got to go for Glenelg.
You'll go for Glenelg. Sorry, you did say Westies. I was like, what? An upset? No, I'm going to go for Glenelg as well. And then obviously buys to the other teams as well. All right, let's move on to the SANFL W. We finally have our top 4 completely sorted, but we'll go through some of the results. Norwood getting up over West Adelaide in obviously the most important one of the round for sorting out those finals by just the solitary goal.
Yeah, finally got up in a close one. It managed to lose the last couple in the last minute or two against the Eagles and Sturt there. So, yeah, finally got home and at least are playing finals this week.
Absolutely. Sturt doing the job over North Adelaide. We sort of flagged that was probably going to happen. North just have not got going this season at all, and it really showed. And Sturt were coming hard.
All the best to Jess Edwards, who announced her retirement. North Adelaide captain, former worked at the Paynham Tavern, so you see Jess a lot.
Yep.
So, all the best to Jess there as well.
Absolutely. A thriller at Mornteen Oval there between Woodville West Torrens and Glenelg, with Glenelg just getting up by a point.
Yeah, a good result for Glenelg, but they really have fallen away a bit, Glenelg. So, big test this week now.
Absolutely. And the Panthers flexing their muscles against another pretty good SANFL W team in the Bulldogs.
They are well and truly the team to beat, South Adelaide.
They are. Well, this week's semi-finals, the Panthers v the Tigers at Flinders University Oval. I'm assuming in the early game, 12 o'clock?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
I'll go for South.
South for me there. And in the late game, the Bulldogs v the Redlegs. This one,
touch of the coin. You'd almost say the ground helps Central because it's pretty similar dimensions to the Ponderosa.
Yes. But Nord have done all right down at South Adelaide.
Centrals as well. Toss the coin. We'll go for Centrals in trying to get the legs up.
Heart says Nord. Head says probably Centrals. That's probably where I'm at there as well. The final ladder ended up, obviously, South Adelaide top, Central sitting second, Glenelg and Nord in the 4. But unlucky to miss out there. Obviously, Sturt finishing 5th and West Adelaide. Woodville West Torrens obviously finishing off their year with a win. Very, very important there as well. And for everybody else, we start again next year. Side note on the SANFL, the wheelchair league I noticed started on. No,
it's been going for a few weeks.
For a couple of weeks now. Maybe we might follow up on that over the next couple of weeks with the SANFL W heading into their final structure.
Yep.
All right, let's talk cricket very quickly. England survive just. Forget the spirit of cricket. Players play to win.
Yeah, they do. But, geez, Australia didn't look overly switched on in the field. They did manage to drop 6 catches. That wasn't a great game against Scotland, who have improved. But, it wasn't a great game.
Fair enough. Did the ICC favour the bigger teams or the bigger nations with travel and accommodation because some of the minor countries or the minnows didn't have the same or weren't afforded the same luxuries?
There's been some pretty average things here, and with the programming where you then went through to the next levels, it's been Mickey Mouse, and that's...
How have we got to this point, though? How have we got to this point? Because cricket seemed to be in a good shape 5-7 years ago.
I think that maybe it's not...
saturation?
Yes, there's no doubt about that. There's too much 2020 leagues absolutely everywhere, and it's taking over. It's a real worry. I actually saw a couple of things writing up where within 5 years, players will just be contracted to 2020s, and there'll be some release for an international window, and it's a huge worry. But I think that's what will happen.
So we've gone too far on the entertainment
massively.
side of things rather than the cricket side of things. Yeah,
but it's a multi-million. They're multi-million. You know, these Indian IPL sides, like the money is just obscene.
Yep. Yeah, licensed to print money.
And it is. You know, you've got someone like Fraser McGurk. He'll just become a 2020 hire specialist. Just using him as the example.
Yep. All right, let's bring it back a little bit closer to home. The Sacca opened up its membership to increase. How and why now, do you think, mate? What are your thoughts?
Well, it's got to be that it's always been reasonably packed out the back anyway. So, a few of us can't work it out. And, I'm a bit bemused. You know, because they've done it for an Indian test match, which sells out anyway. So, it's weird.
This is why I put it on the agenda that it seems like the membership was always hard to get, and then all of a sudden now they've opened it up.
It's strange.
Are they starting to panic a little bit?
I just don't understand why. I'd like it explained.
The Adelaide Test or the Adelaide matches, doesn't matter what they are always well patronised.
Yeah,
so
no doubt about that.
I don't get it. We do it better than most cities, and almost cricket becomes the side attraction.
It does, and you do wonder that. Hang on, for a couple of years. So we've played West Indies the last 2 years. One test match is, going for 3 days, and you just wonder, has there been, so therefore financially not doing as well? So it's a bit weird. I can't. Yeah,
you can't fit any more into the sardine can if it's already full. So that's going to be a very, very interesting follow. All right, mate, let's take another very, very quick break. When we come back, past player, past legend, Anthony Harvey.
Past players, past legends, past legends.
And tonight we're privileged to have Sir Anthony Harvey on board with us. 4 games for St Kilda and a goal in 94. Then recruited the parade, 95 to 2002, 122 games, 105 goals. Nord captain at 98 to 2001. Of course, acting captain of the 97 premiership side. Best and fairest 98. Foss Williams medal 99. Advertiser team of the year 97, 98, 99. A couple of state games. Welcome aboard, Harves.
Thanks for having us, guys. Great to be here.
Thank you, mate. We like to go back to where it all began. Where did you play some of your junior football, and where did you grow up, mate?
Yeah, I grew up originally in Victoria. I'm from, my home club is Seaford, which is in the Mornington Peninsula Footy League. I guess it's a bit like Elizabeth over here, which is the gateway to the Barossa. So Seaford is a gateway to the Mornington Peninsula, just next to Frankston. So, yeah, that was where it all started for me. Played all my juniors there, right through from under 9s through to under 17s.
And did you represent a little bit as your junior for that area?
I played some interleague as a junior. I didn't play a lot of rep games because my mum wouldn't let me because I was a bit small. So Yeah, so I was a very late developer, so I was always the smallest in the team. Always held the footy in the team photos down the front. So
I reckon your cult mightn't have changed from that position yet either, halves. And I can remember sitting with a game with you watching, and I reckon there was a nervous mum watching that day. Actually, yes. Yes.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to have my parents were very supportive and hardly missed any of my games. Even, they'd be over every 3 or 4 weeks, driving over from Melbourne to watch me play at Norwood.
Yeah, no, quite often had a chat to your dad and that, and he got a bit shitty with you one night because Robert had got injured, and then you got injured, and I said, Jesus, they don't have to go out with sympathy, these two with bloody injuries, the same injury because it was incredible how that seemed to follow you two at one stage.
Yeah, followed me a bit more, unfortunately.
Yes.
So he sort of got away with a few more games than me.
Yeah, just a couple.
Speaking of Robert, obviously growing up, you boys would have been pretty competitive and doing a bit of research that cricket was obviously in the family, and whether you both were playing a bit of backyard cricket and backyard footy back in the day.
Of course, with your grandfather being Merv and your granduncle, of course, the famous Neil Harvey.
Yeah. So I guess the footy was in our blood. The cricket was in our blood. We grew up cricket in the summer and footy in the winter. And my dad was a reasonable cricketer. He played a lot of grade cricket and captain coached grade cricket in.
Did you nearly go to the cricket way, halves, or not?
No, I didn't. Rob did.
That's what I was trying to remember there. I was sure one of you nearly went that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just a gritty little opening batsman, wicket keeper. So.
Yeah, I knew you were a keeper.
I could hang around a long time, but I didn't make a lot of runs. So, cricket was a great love of cricket. But I was never going to go down the cricket path, and even I never thought I'd go down the footy path because I was, like I said, I was very small. Even as a late teen, I copped a lot of knocks, and it was easily thrown around. So I never thought I'd go as far as I did in footy.
Did you guys have a couple of big tussles in the backyard that you might let us in on?
He's 18 months older than me. So and he developed quite early actually. Well, to be able to play in the AFL at 16 back then, he was a fair bit bigger than I was. So I was on the rough end of the stick a lot. So, and being the youngest of three boys, my oldest brother Steve, he's another 18 months older than Rob. So, I was on the rough end of a lot of it.
Of course, you were then at Frankston and eventually getting out to St Kilda. Fill us in how that all developed, halves.
Yeah. So I actually went in between there. I went to St Kilda in the under-19s.
Right.
So, and like I said, I was very small. I remember going into the gym at St Kilda, and all these guys were lifting big weights, and they had to pull out the baby weights for me. So, so it was a bit daunting. Yeah, and I thought I wouldn't make the under-19 team, but I actually did make the list, but didn't get a game for the first 6 or 8 games. And I remember one Friday night, the phone rang at home, and it was the coach for the under-19 saying, "Can you get to the airport in an hour?" And I asked Mum, and she said, "Yeah, I can get you there," because someone had pulled out to the game to Sydney. They play back in those days. The under-19s played against the Sydney Swans. So
that's right. Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought, great, I'll get a free trip to Sydney. I've never been on a plane before, so
that's all right.
Yeah. So Mum rushed me out to the airport and flew up to Sydney and played. Sat on the bench for the first quarter, and then come on and did pretty well in the midfield and had a lot of it. And we got beat by a lot. I think it was 15 goals or something. But that game sort of entrenched me in the team for the rest of the season. So and that was the first game that I sort of kick-started my footy career, I guess.
Who was coaching at the time?
At St Kilda in the 19s?
Yeah. I know it's probably asking a lot to try and remember.
Yeah, my memories, Gary Colling, he's a great St Kilda player, actually.
He's pretty hard at it. Yeah, I remember him. Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty rugged on baller. Yep.
Yeah. So we actually remember getting kicked off Moorabbin Oval a lot because of the seniors coming out, and Peter Hudson was the footy manager, I think, at the time, and he used to come and kick us off the oval. So, yeah, it was just an honour just to be amongst those people.
I thought you were going to say they kicked you off the oval to put the sprinklers on, because
they were good at that.
They were very good at that.
Yeah. They didn't need the sprinklers at Moorabbin. There was enough mud anyway. And water on that oval anyway. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Harves, it's going to be a bit harder this one to comment on. So you've gone through, and who was your VFL debut? Your debut against AFL debut, mate.
All right. Yep. So then after getting drafted, I was on a sup list at St Kilda for 6 months before I got into the June draft that year. It was the last June draft.
Right.
I think in the 90s. So Ken Sheldon was my coach originally.
He could fire up.
Yeah. I'd seen him fire up a couple of times, but never with me, which was a plus. So
I think it was the famous Craig Davenport was the one. Was the one with Ken Sheldon where he blasted him over the fence, and so that got a bit of publicity.
Yeah. So it was. I got on really well with Ken, and then in the years to come, he came over and coached South Adelaide over here. So I caught up with him a fair bit. So, and he's a great family friend. So yeah, great guy.
So now you played 4 games. You only played 1 win against Fitzroy, but your last game, you played against Geelong, who played in the grand final. You had 23. You got a goal. What were you? And knowing you, they wouldn't have been 23 hurry kicks. You used the ball. Your use of the ball was always pretty good. So, how did you feel after that? And then to end up not going on, and I think you're a bit unlucky too. I think you get compared, as is customary with anyone, with their brother and having the famous brother, etc. In that way, probably didn't. Well, you're not going to say it. I think that hurt you. So personally.
Oh, yes and no. I think it did give me a look in.
Yeah.
So people saw the name and noticed, but then I think once I was there, I sort of made a name for myself.
Yep.
And I was confident enough to think I could play at that level. So but that Geelong game was. I thought I did do okay. The funny thing was I think we were 5 goals up at 3/4 time down at Cardinia Park, and Gary Ablett Senior had hardly had a kick up till then, and of course he would have come back in the last quarter and kicked, I think, 3 or 4 goals and win the game for them. They won by 3 points. So I guess there had to be someone that had to leave the team. But I guess the worst thing about it was there was only one change that week, and it was HARVEY for HARVEY. I got dropped for my brother. He was coming back from a hamstring injury. So
he's a bit of the Steve Waugh, Mark Waugh.
Yeah. Mum wasn't too happy. I know that.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine your mum in that one. Yes.
Was that one of the only times that you guys would have played or potentially played together?
Well, we played. So I think we only missed a week with that hammy. So my first game he didn't play, which was Collingwood at MCG. But the second game I played, we played together, and I sat on the bench for pretty much the whole game except for the last 5 minutes. So I remember running on, not thinking I'd get anywhere near the ball, and I think he did get it and kicked it backwards or sideways just to give me a kick. So, yeah, that was probably then the next game we played, I started on the bench, and then that's when he did his hamstring, and he was running off, and we tapped each other at the boundary because I came on for him. So, yeah, we didn't play a lot.
Yeah.
Sliding doors moment.
Yeah, it was. So.
And so then at the end of the year, you've ended up, not keeping your spot on the St Kilda. Did any other clubs show interest?
Well, I did actually get back in the team later that year.
Right.
So they've told me I was going to play again, and then unluckily I got stress fractures or diagnosed with them the Thursday night of training, the last training. So. And that put me out for the rest of the season. So from then I got delisted, and there was other clubs interested. I did get contact, but I actually did a pre-season a couple of years later at Collingwood.
Right.
At the start of 1997, actually. So I think that's when Danny Frawley, the late great Danny Frawley, he started his coaching career at Collingwood, and he got me out there.
Right.
But yeah,
I do vaguely remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a mini Norwood though. There was that many Norwood guys out there at Collingwood at the time.
Nothing wrong with that. That's how it should be.
Yeah.
Yep.
How were you told that St Kilda weren't requiring your services anymore? Was it a simple case of somebody coming to you?
My second year at St Kilda, I had Stan Elves as a coach.
Right.
So I remember it being a fair while after the end of the season. We'd been on our footy trip and we got back, and fair enough, I got the call in to his office, and I knew it was going to be bad news straight away. So, and he let me know then, just because I had a few too many injuries, because I had osteitis pubis most of that season as well. So I missed a fair few games. So yeah, I think they thought I was a bit injury prone and unreliable. So that was it.
And what happened? How did you arrive at the home of football, mate?
Yeah, so it was either, for me, go back to the VFA at the time, which I played at Frankston, but I didn't particularly enjoy my time at Frankston. So it was either I talked to Sandringham, the Zebras, over there, and then I had a fair bit of interest from over this way at South SA. So, and I guess got contacted by most clubs over here. So I had to make a choice on which one, because I hadn't really known anything about the SANFL at the time. So our recruiting manager at St Kilda at the time, John Beveridge, who's a close family friend, I sought him out for some advice, and he said which clubs had contacted you, and I told him, and he said, well, this club is a reliable club, and you can't go wrong if you go there. And I'd been in contact with Glenn Rosser a few times, and he'd really impressed me, and him and Todd Barabas.
Yes.
Recruiting
I'll make sure
guy.
I tag Todd on this when we do put it online.
Yeah. So they made the trip to Melbourne, and I think they dropped into a few of us at the time, and I was one, I think, including James Tyson and Paul McCormack and a couple of those guys. So, and I remember at the time, because it was the major draft in the AFL back then was like 2 weeks before the start of the season.
Yeah.
So, and if you didn't get picked up, it was like a mad rush.
Yes, that's right.
Where to go. So, and usually, so Norwood rang me and said, "Oh, we will fly over. You can have a look. We'll have a look at you, and then you can fly home and make a decision." And I remember at the time I just said to my mum, if I'm going to play, I'm going to just do it. So I told Glenn Rosser, "Well, I'm coming." He goes, "Okay, I'll book a flight." And he goes, "No, I said I'm driving over tomorrow to play for you." So, and he was a bit, we don't usually get that. So
yeah, no,
it was a bit of a risk on their behalf, but I think it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, no, it certainly did. Certainly did.
And I actually got in earlier than the other guys that were recruited that year. So a lot of those guys didn't arrive till round 2 or 3, and I arrived the week before the start of the season. So I was lucky. Because Neil Craig,
yes,
my first coach, he didn't really take too warmly to new guys, especially from interstate. So I thought I would have to do my time in the reserves. But I was lucky enough that I got there for the last trial game and played the reserves, and I was lucky enough to get picked for my debut against Central Districts in round 1.
Yep.
You said you drove over. Did you have any accommodation, or did the club sort of say, "Look, we'll put you up here for a couple of weeks or a couple of players together"? How did that all play out?
I didn't really know. I just jumped in the car and hadn't really thought that far ahead. Being a young guy, 20 years old, is like, I'm just going to play footy and see you later, mum and dad. And Arrived on the doorstep of the footy club, and Glenn's says, jumped in, follow me, jump in your car. And then we drove up the parade to the top of the parade to Kensington Gardens. And I opened the door to an old falling down house and to an ex-Norwood player, Craig Binder.
Yes. His son, Tristan, his son's playing at the moment. Yep.
So I was lugged with him for a bit.
Jeez.
And then a few more arrived a bit after, so I got to live with some characters.
You would have been the responsible one just quietly in that household, Harves, too. Yes.
Well, there's some stories, but probably not appropriate.
Well, the time slot would might qualify.
We would. Who were those guys, if I can ask? We'll go down the rabbit hole here.
Well, okay. So Paul McCormack arrived a few weeks later, but he'd already teed up to live with a couple other guys that were playing at North Adelaide at the time. So, but he couldn't get into that house for a month or so. So I lived with him for about a month. Yeah. Then when he moved out, Jason Miller moved in.
Yes.
So that was like very interesting living with Jace. Like my eyes were open to a lot of the world with those two guys. So it was a great experience. Though,
would have been a good stable coming in and out of the household. I would have thought.
The door was swinging a bit. Yes. So. It was great though. Like fantastic guys. Craig Binder was playing down at Padthaway at the time with I think with Lester Ross and Simsy.
Stephen Sims.
They would drive down there, so they would pick him up because I don't think he had a license at the time. So it's great to meet a few of the older players as well. We had a few other guys dropping in through, like Andrew Zealand. So it was good. Then so Jason Miller, then Craig Binder, he moved out, and then in the start of my second season, Martin Heppel came over from Melbourne, and he moved in. So
sounds
that was very interesting too.
Sounds like
another character there as well. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm great mates with Martin Heppel. So we were both at St Kilda at.
That's right. He was.
And we got delisted. So we were both going to actually come over to Norwood at the same time, but he got picked up by Melbourne for another year. So and he got to Norwood and was like very unlucky because he did his knee.
A lot of injuries.
First. I think he came off the bench in his first game and kicked the goal within 30 seconds. Then in the next centre bounce, he did his knee. So, that was pretty much the end for him after that. So
a real motley crew there you were explaining, and I can see Malcolm's face here lighting up going, I can imagine what those guys were getting up to.
To say that Anthony would have been the very quiet one out of that living arrangement. I'll assure you on
fair
that.
Call.
I definitely was, Malcolm. I definitely was.
Yes. So obviously you arrive at Norwood, not knowing too much about Norwood, but you probably would have heard some names that would have been going around, like Gary McIntosh and a few players like that. What were your first thoughts stepping out and practicing and doing a bit of pre-season?
I had heard of Gary McIntosh because Glenn had sent a few Redlegs reviews over, and I'd be flicking through those, and I said, I know that guy. He goes, I thought that's the guy from the international rules that knocked everyone out. Yep. And I thought he must have been about 6'5" and 120 kilo, but I got over and I saw the size of him and I thought, man, this guy's mad.
Yeah.
So, but what a player though.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. Incredible hands. The handball skill as good as anyone in the game, and obviously very comparable with Greg Williams, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most areas where he's underrated. I think most people saw him as a tough nut, but his skills were sublime.
And we probably out at Macca, you forget how good a bloody kick he was, because I think in some ways Macca actually, the one criticism you have, he actually probably over-handballed at times because he did have that lethal left leg as well.
Yeah, but he could handball at 30 metres.
It was incredible, wasn't it? So, in terms of your career at Norwood, so 95, we were okay, and then of course 96. I'm still recovering from that prelim final. Nearly get out of out of the mental institution soon. Halves on that one.
Is that why we haven't had Scotty Hodges on the show yet?
So that, and that was really frustration. You know, I remember after that there was probably a bit of anger, but a bit of frustration that we'd blown our chances a little bit, and there was a real steely resolve at the start of '97. Is probably a fair way to put it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think after it wasn't a lot said after '96. We sort of everyone parted ways for a bit, and then when we did come back for pre-season, the start of '97, it was a feel like there's a feeling around the place really early on that, you know, this is for real. We're serious about this. So, and it's all started with, like, I think because Jars played for us in that '96 final series after all his turmoil from the Crows.
Yeah.
And it didn't, to his own expectations, he didn't perform to where he probably should have. So we just thought that he would retire and that was it. But he showed up, and Stephen Rowe, the start of '97, and they, and along with Macca, like, they set the tone for everyone for the whole pre-season. So, and we would train for 2 or 3 hours, and then Rowe and Jars would go for a 5-10K run straight after. So it was just having guys like that setting the tone that sort of towed everyone along.
And of course, there was a state game. I reckon it was in Canberra. And I think we had 8 players, and so that we dominated that year.
Yeah,
blew the second semi. I think the prelim final against Centrals, we were struggling. Let's be honest, Macca did contribute and came, and Stewie Jew was causing a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
And that way.
And we thank Anthony Harvey there for his time. Obviously, like we do with most of our guests, we run a bit over time, but part one there, absolutely some fantastic reminiscing about his junior days and his involvement now with the Nord Football Club.
Yeah, look, and that's one thing I should have covered with Halves on. Halves has been absolutely fantastic and played a huge part in the Redlegs website. So if you any Nord supporter, Redlegs Museum, and then you can click on. He has been almost the brainchild of that with the Nord History Committee, and it is widely regarded within footy circles as the best club website in the country. So, yeah, full thank you to Anthony and the Nord History Committee for that side of things.
Great to get Halves on, and as I said, we're going to split that interview up, and I'm really looking forward to it, and thank Anthony once again for his time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Happy days.
All right, mate, we'll rush through the happy days a little bit here today. Happy birthday this week to Jason Horne-Francis. I know he's a favourite of yours.
Yes.
Currently playing for the Port Adelaide Footy Club in the AFL, having initially been selected by North Melbourne as their number one pick in the 2021 draft. As a junior, Horne-Francis played at senior level for the South Adelaide Footy Club, probably one of their better juniors over the last few years as well, and the Christie's Beach Football Club in the Southern Football League.
Yeah, him and Caleb Daniel are the two standouts in that regard. Yeah, he actually debuted against Nord at the parade. So, yeah, it's got a message gone through about Fred Block's just been mentioned in the Hall of Fame at the dinner. So, yeah, I'll certainly be looking that up, and I'm trying to follow it a bit.
Yep,
at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll might touch base with that as we get towards the end of the episode. Horne-Francis was known as a rising star since junior football. Growing up, he supported the Fremantle Dockers. That actually surprised me when I was doing a little bit of research there. I knew that he loved his footy, but I didn't realise it was Freo that he actually followed. He was named the most valuable player for the South Australian when he captained the under-16 state team. He was also captain of South Australia's under-19 team and was named in the competition's All-Australian team. He commenced playing senior level SANFL level at age 17 and named best on ground in the 2021 preliminary final.
I was there that night. It was pretty incredible when you have an opposition coach saying to have a glimpse around the ground and kick it where Horne-Francis isn't effectively is a huge rap for him. Yeah, he was fantastic that night. The only thing, I think he kicked 3-6 that night. If he kicks 6-3 or 7-3 on ball and they win, yeah, but he was good.
Yep.
But geez, it could have been unbelievable.
Absolutely. In October 2022, Horne-Francis requested a trade back to Port Adelaide. The second number 1 draft pick after Tom Boyd requested a trade after one season. He was traded to Port Adelaide on the 10th of October, signing a 6-year deal, keeping him at the Power until 2028.
Yeah, I don't reckon Tom Boyd was booed like Horne-Francis was, yeah.
Makes it interesting. All right, let's move on to cricket, 1978. I know you'd like this one here, mate, but Ian Botham takes 8 for 34 versus Pakistan in his best test cricket bowling figures.
You sort of, forget that's the late 70s and then 81, 82, whatever, the 5 or so years where Botham's bowling was incredible as well.
Yep.
And he was a legitimate, absolute superstar.
Was he the start of the all-rounder?
Well, there was Imran Khan then around as well. And, so you had a couple of Hadley was a reasonable bat, but obviously a lot better bowler.
Yep.
Where it was, and then of course we unfortunately didn't get to see Mike Proctor and Clive Rice and that, so the South African side of it.
Yep.
And there was Kapil Dev with India, so it was an era with quite a few strong all-rounders.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on. This week in 2016, we'll talk the NBA Finals in our closing sort of segment.
I thought you might have that lined up, mate.
But I might just chuck this one in because it sort of relates a little bit to this week's finals, isn't that the NBA Finals in 2016, the Cleveland Cavaliers win their first title, beating defending champion the Golden State Warriors 93-89 in Game 7. First team to overcome a 3-1 deficit, and the MVP obviously being LeBron James.
Yep.
We'll talk about that and why that's important coming up in a minute. Let's move on to tennis, 1949. Tennis star Gussie Moran shocks Wimbledon by wearing a short dress to look good and to make moving more freely on a court.
I might have to look that up later and see what they called short back then.
Well, it was actually a bit shorter than I thought it was going to be, but up until that point, it was,
Yeah, it was a no-no,
Oh, you couldn't do it. So I thought I'd chuck that one in there as a bit of sporting history.
Yes.
And to finish us off with a bit of sporting history in 2005, Michael Schumacher wins a controversial United States Formula One Grand Prix where only 6 of the 20 cars competing finished the race. Amongst ridicule with the F1 safety tyre rules.
Bit unlucky that Steve Bradbury didn't come through and get up there, mate. So
it is an interesting one for sure. All right, let's get into the extra time big finish.
Extra time big finish.
All right, let's kick off with tennis. We'll start off with the Australian Alex de Minaur. We do talk about him quite a bit each week, but he's now reached another career milestone of number 7 in the world, and that is his career highest.
Yeah, and look, he was good and far. He didn't, as we covered last week, he didn't fall away like he did in the Australian Open, and that while he lost in straight sets, he only lost 8 less points for the match, and it was really decided effectively by 2 or 3 points.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Absolutely unbelievable. Staying with tennis, Nadal and Alcaraz to team up for the Olympics in the doubles. Wow. Yeah. That is well worth the price of admission, don't you think?
At least Nadal's going out swinging. Yeah.
And I suppose a little bit of a childhood hero. Nadal is Alcaraz's childhood hero, one of them, and he gets to play with him at the Olympics in what potentially would be his last game.
Yeah.
Nadal said not playing Wimbledon. He's obviously got his mind set on the clay courts in Paris.
Yep, Olympics.
Let's move on to the NBA Finals. We did talk about teams coming back from 3-1 down, and this was the score before this morning's game. The Boston Celtics obviously leading the series 3-1, but were never headed, and they then win Game 5 and onto their 18th championship, which now makes them the most successful NBA franchise in history.
Gather that you're quite happy with that result too, Pete.
Being a Boston man Boston fan, yes. And what it's done is it's actually sparked the Red Sox a little bit as well, because they took, I I think, opening game or opening 2 games against the Yankees. So, and the Yankees at the moment have been going very, very well, and records going down all over the place. So it's all happening in Boston at the moment.
Yeah.
So, yes, congratulations to the Boston Celtics there, obviously, with that championship win. All right, let's finish off on golf, mate. Adam Scott passes a big milestone, playing 92 majors in a row. The next closest is Jordan Spieth with 43. When you look at that, that is amazing.
Yeah, it is. It's one which should just sneak by, sort of thing. And
that just shows the longevity of Adam Scott. I know he hasn't been as successful as we would like, but the longevity of him playing 92 majors in a row, or 92 majors consecutively, is just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Obviously, the US Open was a big talking point over the last couple of days, and Bryson DeChambeau taking the victory with a pretty impressive get out of jail from the bunker, and then Rory McIlroy missing a couple of putts that, mate, I know your golf's not too bad, but I reckon you might have been able to sink at least one of them.
You've got to question him mentally.
But he does have a lot going on off the grass.
Yeah.
You know, is he with the live? Is he getting divorced? Is he staying together? But they're the kind of putts that you really need to be making, don't you?
Yeah. He's just failed again. In a crunch situation, his record's not great.
Yep. Finishing off, Minwoo Lee, who we did get a little bit of a message from Craig last week about it, saying that, you know, he thinks he'll go all right at the US Open. He didn't go too badly, but he's now secured his spot for the Olympic team, the Australian Olympic team. I think that's a big feather in his cap.
Yeah. Yep. So all the best there.
Absolutely. All right, let's move on to some general questions. Mate, one that snuck under the radar for me, probably not you being a bit of a cricket nuffy, in that Travis Head has taken all before him since 2021 in all forms of the cricket.
Yeah, probably not quite as good in the Test summer last year, but you think he dominated he did well in England. He did very well in the World Championship final. Mm-hmm. You know, man of the series in the Ashes thing. So
I want to run through some stats.
And, man of the match in the World Cup final. Yeah, he's got some pretty incredible records.
I want to run through some stats with you, and this is why I wanted to bring it up. All right, Tests, 2,020 runs at an average of 43, strike rate of 78.
Yeah, pretty reasonable.
That is pretty reasonable.
Reasonable, yeah.
One day internationals, 1,124 runs at 58 average with a strike rate of 122.
Exceptional.
T20s, 485 runs with an average of 37 and a strike rate of 164.
Yeah, but that's also 2020, but it's also the bats nowadays, the ball carries. Some of the couple of the grounds they played in, I reckon, are no bigger than the room we're recording from at the moment too, Pete. Yep. So, look, he's been very good, but I still just want him to keep being consistent at Test level. That's what I care about.
Yep.
You know what? I couldn't care less what he does.
That's
personally on the 2020.
And you did mention the World Cup final, the cricket World Cup final, and the T20 World Cup as well. Just some staggering stats. Yeah. We might even put that up online as well. Yep. So, and to finish us off, Melissa Wu becomes the first Aussie to qualify for 4 Olympics. What a huge achievement!
Is it 4
in the
or
diving.
5?
Might even be 5.
I think it's 5 actually.
Yep.
Yeah, incredible. Yeah, I'm sure it's 5.
Yep.
So. Certainly be a big chance to be carrying the flag, you would think. So, yeah.
And remember when she first started, I mean, there was nothing of a teenager, really just trying to set the world alight, and yet she's been a model of consistency.
And sat next to Stephen Moore yesterday. Maury's son has been picked in the gymnastics, so we'll be following him. We'll do a bit more of a preview and do that properly. Look, just following a little things they've come through. Congratulations to Chris McDermott, inducted into the Hall of Fame tonight. And while I was following that message and trying to do a couple of things there, greatly appreciated for Jason Turnbull sending it through. That the Hall of Fame tonight have covered the players who have left us since the last Hall of Fame. And fantastically, Fred Block was acknowledged on that. So, that means a bit as well.
Absolutely. We might follow up a little bit on that next week and obviously talk about that, knowing that we know everybody that's been inducted. All right, mate, it's been a huge episode. We thank Anthony Harvey for his time. We'll see how we go in splitting the interview up. we have gone a fair way on most of our topics. But I thank you once again, mate. We'll leave the good, the bad, the ugly for this week. And
I think we've covered that in various spots.
I think we have. Yes. And as per usual, we promise to do better. Thanks, you, mate.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.